Welcome to this explainer. Okay, if you think football is just 22 people running around a pitch kicking a piece of leather, well, prepare to have that illusion completely shattered. Today, we're diving deep into the psychodynamic architecture of football. We are going to unpack how this sport is actually a profound, highly structured theater of human psychology, neurobiology, and ancient social ritual. Honestly, it's not just a game, it's a literal microcosm of the human experience. Okay, let's dive right into this. At the very core of football's psychological power is a concept you can view through a Lacanian lens, the law of the hand. The foundational rule of the entire sport is the absolute ban on using your hands. I mean, think about it. As humans, our hands are our primary tools, right? They're for capturing, controlling, and carrying. By transferring that control entirely to the feet, the game forces this massive amount of self-control. This strict prohibition builds up what depth psychology actually calls a libidinous surplus. It's an incredible psychological tension that eventually just bursts out as raw, spectacular emotion. It is literally the return of the repressed, played out right there on the grass.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with Section 1, the sacred sphere. Then we'll move through the positional psyche, squad archetypes and managers, the referee's burden, the anatomy of choking, and finally, we'll wrap up the whole shebang with the fan identity.
Section 1, the sacred sphere, order versus chaos. You see, the pitch acts as a sort of liminal space, where our mundane, everyday social hierarchies just vanish, and the ball itself becomes a symbol of the ritualized battle between human consciousness and chaotic fate.
Moving right along to Section 2, the positional psyche, neurobiology on the pitch. To really grasp this positional psyche, we need to zoom in on the micro level first. The pitch is divided into these incredibly distinct psychological domains, and each area demands a totally different cognitive profile from the players. And honestly, nowhere is this more extreme than inside the penalty box. Listen to this intense quote from former professional goalkeeper Arthur Boruk. He described the keeper as the guy in the military who makes the bombs. One mistake and everyone gets blown up. Man, that perfectly captures the immense gravity and the claustrophobic isolation of the role. The goalkeeper is the backbone, this isolated guardian, carrying a unique, incredibly heavy psychological burden.
Now, what's absolutely fascinating is how that extreme pressure plays out inside the brain. In high-stakes moments, your brain's panic center, the amygdala, reacts first, spiking the heart rate and tightening muscles. The rational decision-making center, the prefrontal cortex, kicks in just slightly later. Elite mentally tough keepers actually train their neurobiology to reduce that gap, making sure cold, hard logic overrides their instinctive survival panic.
But, hey, what happens when they do make a mistake? Because for a keeper, an error carries a totally crushing sense of guilt. To survive this, these elite athletes use strictly regimented reset rituals to completely clear their minds. A huge one is box breathing. It goes exactly like this. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. It is a literal, tactical neuro reset designed to wash away the guilt and restore absolute laser focus.
Moving up the pitch, we hit the fullbacks, 11 to 13 kilometers. That is the massive, grueling distance modern fullbacks run per match. Really, no position has transformed more. They're the team's Swiss Army knife, right? They possess the sheer physical endurance to cover immense ground, while tactically fluctuating between wide areas and inverted central spaces just to create numerical overloads. And then we reach the absolute center of it all. Midfielders are the tactical heartbeat of the team, and they survive using elite executive functions. They operate in the most information-dense zones on the entire pitch. They need incredible cognitive flexibility and what's called a high scanning frequency, which basically means constantly checking their shoulders to process data and literally cut their decision time in half. They even use these cognitive tools to dictate the psychological tempo of the game, instinctively knowing exactly when to speed it up with a vertical pass or slow it down to calm the chaos.
Let's shift gears a bit for Section 3, squad archetypes and managers, the surrogate family.
So we're zooming out just a little bit now to look at the collective unconscious of the entire team. A highly successful team isn't just a bunch of random athletes. It's a carefully balanced collection of psychological archetypes. You've got the goalkeeper as the guardian, the center back providing that paternal leadership, the midfielder acting as the brain, and then of course you have the forwards, the artists. They are pursuing heroic glory and, let's be honest, often exhibit traits of subclinical narcissism. Now, that narcissistic confidence can brilliantly boost team morale, but if individual glory overtakes the collective, it fractures the whole squad.
The team is essentially a living, breathing surrogate family. Which brings us straight to the manager. The coach often steps right into the psychodynamic role of the surrogate father. Modern managers, think of guys like Jurgen Klopp or Pep Guardiola, they use immense emotional intelligence to act as an emotional container. They hold all of the players' frustrations, their fears, their shame, and they transform the dressing room into a highly protective, mastery-oriented climate where growth is prioritized above all else.
Zooming out even further, Section 4, the referee's burden, the impartial adjudicator.
Officiating is widely considered an impossible profession, and honestly, it makes sense. Referees are tasked with flawlessly enforcing the law while taking the absolute brunt of intense, hostile social pressure from every single direction. And get this, that external pressure literally rewires their decision-making. It's known as the crowd noise effect. The sheer physical proximity of screaming fans subconsciously forces anxious referees to make popular decisions that favor the home team simply to avoid confrontation. To survive it, officials have to rely heavily on task-oriented coping, hyper-focusing on their physical positioning just to block out the overwhelming psychological assault coming from the stadium.
Now, we arrive at Section 5, the anatomy of choking, the 12-yard spot.
In a split second during a penalty shootout, all the complex tactical layers of the game are completely stripped away. It is just a player, a ball, a keeper, and pure, raw, inescapable psychological pressure. I want you to really think about this for a second. Why do elite professionals, athletes who have practiced striking a ball literally tens of thousands of times, suddenly choke from just 12 yards out? How do highly trained mechanisms completely fail them right when they need them the most?
So the crucial point here is something called the explicit monitoring theory. Under massive suffocating stress, the brain overanalyzes the exact mechanics of the kick. Instead of relying on automatic fluid muscle memory, conscious control interferes. The brain literally reverts to a novice-like state, and you can actually see the anxiety tells. Players will rush their shot immediately after the whistle, or they'll physically turn their backs on the goalkeeper just to avoid eye contact. They totally lose emotional control.
And neuroimaging absolutely backs this up. When a player successfully converts a penalty, their brain shows a specific beta power frequency of 8 to 13 Hz. This indicates lower cortical activation in the frontal regions. Basically, they aren't overthinking. They've entered a pure flow state, successfully mastering their internal impulses to execute the perfect strike. Finally, Section 6, the fan identity, the dancing collective body.
We are zooming all the way out to the stands now, because this is where the energy of the sport absolutely explodes. The stadium isn't just a place with seating, it is a dancing, kinetic, collective body. What happens in the stands is a crazy phenomenon called identity fusion. The boundary between your personal, individual self and the group identity entirely disappears. Fans engage in this massive choreography of belonging, bodily synchronization through kinetic waves, rhythmic immersion through roaring chants, and symbolic displays with those massive flags. You are no longer just you. You are part of a giant, synchronized organism.
This collective effervescence, this intense, shared emotional synchrony, it radically reduces loneliness and creates a feeling of literal spiritual transcendence. The stadium acts as a massive cathartic vessel. It metabolizes high-intensity emotions, purging fear and grief through active physical immersion. And you know the most beautiful part of it all? It provides these massive psychological benefits, regardless of what the final score actually is.
Which leads us to this massive realization. Association football is way more than a game. It is a mass ritual. It mirrors our eternal human struggle for mastery over our internal impulses and over external fate. Football isn't just an escape from life, it is a vital cultural mechanism for surviving it.
So I want to leave you with a question. The next time you find yourself screaming in the stands or holding your breath during a tense penalty shootout, if this sport perfectly mirrors the human struggle for mastery, what does your specific role in that massive emotional crowd say about your own psyche? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and keep questioning the game.